It's Friday, July 7th, 2023. Start out with our show segment. Patreon.com/Ozone Nightmare is one avenue in which you can support the show if you so choose. You can also go over to the show homepage and you will see a row of rounded squares. I finally got it right on the first time because I thought about it 8 times before I said it. Squares, not rectangles. Squares that you can click on. They do different things. One looks like a fat little book with a bookmark on it. If you click that, that brings you over to Lando's Amazon author page so you can buy books. There's one with a skull that takes you to my artwork, or maybe my Linktree, one or the other, I don't remember. But either way, you'll get where you need to go. And then there's one that has the PayPal logo, and that lets you donate using a PayPal link if you are so inclined. Also, my Linktree is in every one of the show notes, which has all kinds of stuff. And actually I understand why people like these so much because they are very dynamic. It's one link that I can constantly update and not have to refresh the name all the times. Even though I did buy another domain name. I think it's joeesposito.xyz because I just thought that sounded neat. I haven't done anything with it yet, so it won't work, but I will eventually.
How many domains do you think you own at this point?
Oh, well, I can tell you. Hold on. I've probably got a dozen because...
You know what? That's better than I thought it was going to be.
Well, because I've got... I think there's theozonenightmare.com, ozonenightmare.com, ozonelatenight.com, meatfreeradius.com. So that's 4. There's another one. There's the one I just got, and I know there's one more. So maybe it's 6. So maybe it's only like 6 or 7. No, because when I buy the funny ones, I let them expire. I don't usually keep them unless they're really useful. Which, honestly, they're generally not. They're more of gags type of thing. So I don't keep them for too long. Also, code Ozone, Ozone, as far as I know, still works for 2 months free of Libsyn, I think. And we got a message until Twitter destroys itself, which it will now. I mean, he's really fucked it now. But we did get a message.
Yeah, well, yeah. Well, we'll talk about Twitter. Yeah.
The message is from Aaron Doherty, who I interviewed as part of the Len Kabaczynski episode, as a supporter of ours on Patreon. Which, thank you, Aaron. Where we were talking about, and she said she really enjoyed the augmented reality stuff because we really, quote, thought about this. My response to that was, I rarely really think about anything, but thank you anyway. So, thank you very much, Aaron. But yeah, Twitter's fucked. So...
Wait, what augmented reality thing?
The headset. We were talking about Vision Pro. Remember you were asking me about the Apple headset?
Oh, the Apple thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I would love to tell you that I hadn't thought about it. But,
yeah, I didn't either.
I did think about it. Like, I don't prep for this show. Let's be very clear.
Yeah.
It's just the normal course of my brain that I just ponder things all the time. Yeah. And ever since I saw the development video for that thing, I'd pondered it. And I wanted to talk to you about it because I was like, what the fuck is this? My tattooist, who became my buddy before I moved from Vermont, used to say the phrase, was it tick, tick, tick goes Lando's brain?
Sure.
And, that's kind of the way it works. It just keeps ticking along. So, yeah. So I don't prep, but I always think about it because it's just the the broken nature of my brain to think about it.
And I like nerd stuff, so I always think about this stuff.
Oh, we both love nerd stuff too.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, and it leads into the whole cyberpunk mirror shades thing. You know, it's the nerdiest.
I just started reading Snow Crash again. Jesus, what a great book!
I
know that, but every time I start reading it, I am once again amazed at how that book hits the ground running so fast. It's just great.
It does, and the way in which it sets up its characters so quickly.
Yeah.
I mean, even though the main character's name is Hero Protagonist.
Well, and the fact that the YT immediately says that's a dumb name, and his response is, "Yeah, but you'll never forget it, right?"
There you go. Yeah.
I mean, it's even pointed out this is a stupid name. Well, yeah, memorable names often are. Like our show name, I always say it's stupid. People are like, "Yeah, but I won't forget about it." I'm like, "Okay, well, then I guess it's accomplished something."
I love Neil Stephenson's ability of characterization. Because, like, what was the other one he did with Cryptonomicon? Is it Cryptonomicon? Yeah, Cryptonomicon.
Well, that is another one of his, yeah.
Yeah. That book has a lot of enjoyable scenes in it, but there's one of my favorite scenes in that book, other than the math equation of masturbation, where he figures out exactly how much... The main character is in prison and figures out exactly how often he has to masturbate to keep his brain at peak so he can, like, work out a math problem. That's hilarious. But there's a scene in there where he's at a dinner party, and the main character keeps comparing it to like a Lord of the Rings. It's like a Lord of the Rings metaphor. Not a metaphor, like a simile, whatever. It's a giant comparison to Lord of the Rings, and how like he's like one of these dwarves that's come back from an adventure, and like the way it affects everybody, and like but he keeps dragging it all back to this comparison to Lord of the Rings and the kinds of ideas that you get from those books, like the way people are, the different races. And I always just love it because it's utterly random. It's just the main character reframing a very ordinary situation, but it works to amuse you, the reader, but it also works to add a sense of what the character is like. It's not Neil Stephen necessarily doing it. He's saying, this is my character perceiving it this way. So you're getting a real sense of who the character is through this reference. I love stuff like that. I feel like Neil Stephenson, his writing is great, and I love to spend time in his books, but I feel like his plots have gotten away from him. And I mean that kind of in like the best possible way, you know, but like his books do tend to wander off the beaten path, and then just kind of wander for a while. I mean, you read Seven Eves.
Yes, I liked it. Yeah. And
the thing is, they're not bad, but like there is a point from all his new stuff, not his old stuff. Like Snow Crash is tight, but all his newer stuff. There's always this point in his books where I stop and I go, "Where the hell are we going? Where the hell is this going?" You know, because there's just so many kind of like meandering turns along the way. But his characterization is still phenomenal. And Snow Crash is, you know, if I hadn't done Normancer for my school, what do you call it? My master's report, I probably would have done Snow Crash. You know, because Snow Crash is very much a postmodern cyberpunk novel. And there is very clearly a hero on a hero journey. You know, his name is Hero.
It certainly is.
And honestly, as I've gotten older, I find a lot more appreciation for that scene in the book where he meets Raven, and he thinks to himself, you know what? Men spend so much of their lives thinking, oh, you know, I could totally be a badass if, right? And Hero is like, now that I've met Raven, he's like, I now understand what a real badass looks like. He's like, I can stop trying. He's like, there's no hope. And it's almost like this immense weight is lifted off of him because he realizes like there's no point. There's not even a chance, you know? So yes, I do love that about that book. It's a good one. I just pulled that one out today. I unpacked all my leatherbounds, and there was my leatherbound copy of Snow Crash. So awesome.
Good book.
That and Diamond Age. I got two of those.
Oh, those, yeah, it's a good pair. Yeah.
It is, yeah, it's a great pair.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd take Snow Crash over Diamond Age any day. They're both great, but Snow Crash.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Also, because we had just talked about the Apple headset, it is fascinating that the thing described in Snow Crash reads very much as the Apple headset.
Well, I mean, it's
except not as good because it actually says it's two 2K monitors and the Apple headset has two 4K lenses. I believe.
Well, yeah. Let's also.
But otherwise, it's the same.
Cyberpunk is a vision of the future through the lens of
No,
the
but
80s.
I mean that's the only thing about it that doesn't seem like 1-to-1. Everything else is pretty, and I don't think the Apple Vision doesn't have attached headphones. You use your like your AirPods Pro or your whatever.
Yeah.
But otherwise, what is described in there is largely the same. Although I wish we had laptops that had eyeballs in them. That we don't have. So he did have that as the thing that kind of interfaced and scanned the guy. We don't have that, so it's all inside the headset. I would not mind having computer that had an eyeball in it.
What's his name? What's the name of the asshole who runs Facebook?
Oh, Mark Zuckerberg.
What Zuckerberg really wanted when he made I don't know, we'd call it Facebook Space, whatever the hell it was.
Meta.
He really
wanted the metaverse. It's called the metaverse.
Yeah, that's right.
He actually was able to trademark that, which is a fucking disgrace. But God.
Bastard. Yeah. Anyway, what he really wanted to do was make the street.
Oh, absolutely.
That's in Snow Crash, the main area is called the street. Everybody has kind of real estate off of the street, and it's the virtual space. Everyone kind of wanders in the metaverse, that's what he wanted to create. What's funny is that he missed the part about how he needed the technology to make it worth going to. Yeah. Like you need some sort of force feedback, or else.
Well, his people don't even have legs. I mean, why bother?
Yeah, but as I'm saying, like to make a virtual space that people really want to go to, there needs to be some force feedback. They don't need to be human. Like this is the thing.
Here's another problem.
Yeah.
They don't ever really get. Well, actually, I guess they do. They explain. Well, I haven't gotten to this part in the book yet. I literally just got to I'm at the part where he hops onto the street. That was where I am in the book, and I don't remember if they specifically explained how the street is foundationally powered. Is it open source servers everywhere? Is it? It's not a company.
No,
they may never define it. I think they don't define it.
I thought that it was always basically like, kind of like a pipeline between various countries, and they.
Well, I mean, that's what I always thought too.
It's mutually assured for everyone to keep it up,
and that's one of the other things that Mark Zuckerberg somehow or just chooses to ignore or whatever is the metaverse in Snow Crash is trusted because no one owns it.
Yeah, it's a communal space.
Meta's metaverse is fundamentally untrusted because they know that. Okay, wait a minute. Facebook is the product. Meta is the company. So the metaverse is inherently untrusted because they know that Meta, God, so fucking stupid, owns it. So they're not going to want to flock to it because, number one, young people now don't care about Facebook at all. Completely don't care. Our generation is the last one that would even acknowledge it as anything important. It's gone as far as anybody younger than us. So what would that be? Generation Y or whatever the next one down is. Or maybe one more past that. They don't care anymore. Kids do not care about Facebook. So that shit's over anyway. Plus, those of us who are older and remember what the promise of a metaverse was, not even just the Snow Crash version, but as it was always positioned in virtual reality, which was this big, like the internet made physical. This idea that it was a free open space, that nobody owned it, that you could just wander around and be something else.
And that's the force feedback thing I'm talking about, which is that you make a space worth exploring by making it so that you can feel it with more than just your eyes and your ears, right? And no one has built an interface yet for that. You really want to make that shit work, you have to build some kind of suit or some kind of chair or something that translates. I mean, people want to do virtual reality. At some point, the technology of virtual reality has to intersect with these internet spaces, because I mean you've already got, what was the place, Second Life? Is it Second Life?
Second Life, that was it.
Second Life was an attempt at this idea, right? But again, the problem is the interface technology. You want people to show up, you need to give them something that they can physically experience. Eyes and ears is not enough, you got to make people.
Well, eyes
wanna
and ears
go.
can be enough if there's something there, but if there's a Second Life was another one. They just expected people to just fill it with stuff, and
Yeah.
that concept has never. It has never made sense to me to
No,
put
but-
people
but
into
it-
an empty world and expect them to actually build
but
it. It just won't.
I disagree. I think that if you give people force feedback, I think that they will show up because it'll be more than
Well,
just
they'll
a
show
space.
up, but they'll get bored.
It'll
That's what
be
I'm
a
saying. Is
space
there
where
has
they
to be
can- where
there
they
has
can
to be
interact.
something to start with. People don't as much as people will say otherwise. Nobody actually. Well, okay, kids. When
Listen,
you're an
if-
adult, you love the idea of a sandbox that's got nothing in it. As an adult, you want something there to
Well,
start
you
with. And
yeah,
go, okay.
you want buildings, you want
Yeah,
structures,
even
you want
Minecraft.
sunsets.
Minecraft, when you play it, is not a flat plane.
Yeah. No,
You don't
there's
go
a
into it;
world.
it's a flat plane. And like build stuff.
Yeah.
No,
But the
there's
whole
all kinds of
idea
hills,
is that-
trees, animals, all the rest of it.
I'm sticking with the whole force feedback thing because if you have if you have an empty space, but you have an empty space where people can actually interact with each other, where you can feel theoretically the touch of another person, not in reality, but like it creates a force feedback on your suit or something that you're wearing on your body, right? Suddenly, it's far more interesting, and we don't need to get all porny because I know porn is where it goes, where it becomes paying a service to fucking jerk you off. But I'm sure somebody will fucking figure that out already. But just the idea of interacting with people, and even like it's gonna sound so like lame, but even the idea of being able to virtually hold hands with another person, to feel like somebody is hugging you in some kind of strange way. I think that is what a lot of this technology is missing. Is to feel the connection through the internet. Right now we can just see it. Right now we can just hear it. But if you could physically feel it with your body, it's a different effect altogether. The things that you feel from the, it's going to sound like, again, very porny, but let's keep it clean. The things that you feel below the neck, I think, will profoundly change the way you experience these environments. And if you can physically interact with people, like you can actually feel their presence, I think people will be far more interested in spending time there, because otherwise you get that thing where you and I play video games for like let's say 3 hours, right? You start to lose touch with your body. Like you're so focused, like you and I become so focused on that screen becomes your world, and you're moving around, you're doing stuff, and you lose track of your body. And then you get back and you're like, oh god, you're stiff. But otherwise, you're not using your body. You're just kind of there interacting with the game, and because it's just from the neck up, you need a narrative to draw you forward. But I think that once people can actually physically interact, and you can interact with an environment, I think it becomes more likely that people will want to build. Jesus Christ, people build in Fallout 76.
Well, but there again, what I'm saying is, short of what you're talking about, you can have it be successful without full body immersion, but then there has to be something there already present for you to interact with. Because you're right, after a while you will forget, you'll fill in the rest. But if you just put people on a blank plane, especially the metaverse version with no legs, which is that's immersion breaking. If you put people on a blank plane with nothing to do, they'll fixate on the fact of the deficits. You put them into Fallout 76 with something, even a Minecraft thing where it's empty, but there's exploration. Then people show up and like they've developed role playing and all the rest of it. They've filled in the rest. Short of your total body immersion,
and
you're
I
going to have that.
I think what a lot of these companies want, though, is they don't want video games. They want environments where they literally want environments where people are trying to socialize. They want meeting spaces. They don't want game spaces. They want
something they can monetize. They won't care what it is.
Oh, they want.
But fundamentally, these companies, none of them have any vision. Period. None of them have a vision for what it is. Because
vision is very difficult, because vision is tough to. Early vision cannot quickly be monetized. Do you know what I mean? Like, it takes a while for it to become something that you can put a price tag and be like, oh yeah, we could do this with it. Because think about it. Listen, early internet to me is Napster. Internet happened, it started to coalesce, it started to be a thing, and then somebody was like, you know what? Hey, let's all download everything. And I think inherently there is a fear between commerce and interconnectedness, because there is the more people communicate, the more people share, the more people interact, the harder it is to control a populace.
Well, yeah.
So I if anything, I think the trick with companies is they want to make something that's controllable, and they want people to be controllable in those environments. And if you truly make an environment where people can do whatever they want, yeah, it's tough to monetize that, because at some point someone's going to figure out how to hack your shit, and then you're going to be sitting there fighting with it. I mean,
I also just don't think they know what that is. They still have the idea of 90s VR as Lawnmower Man is still the basis for what a lot of these companies think this is.
But like Twitter, Twitter was a space where people just went on there and shouted at each other, essentially. Maybe sometimes they talked at each other. They threw comments
loudly.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And then, Musk came in and tried to figure out what he could do with it, and it's been a fucking it's been a funny thing to watch. Now, what did he do now? What is the thing that he's doing now? That
he claimed, which is complete and utter nonsense. It's been debunked by many, many people who know better than him. He claimed that AI, whatever he defines that as, which is nothing, was scraping the site too much. Whatever that, I mean, literally, it means nothing. What he said means nothing. But actually, I could. Let me read his exact comment for you. It's important. Here it is. His exact comment was, quote, "Several hundred organizations, maybe more, were scraping Twitter data extremely aggressively to the point where it was affecting the real user experience," unquote. And so because of that, I shouldn't say they, there's no they, it's he. He put a limit on Twitter. Now, let's understand, for those who have never used Twitter, just as an explanation, Twitter is essentially imagine an infinite digital scroll of commentary. That's what it is. You sit there and you go through it, and you go up to the most up-to-date thing, depending on what you're doing, and you go back and back and back, and you could and there could be comments posted every second, depending on how many people you're following and how you have your stuff. Literally, there could be something every second or every minute or whatever. So he limited it to if you were an unverified new account, meaning you just created your account, I guess, yesterday or today, you could only read 300 posts a day. 300 in a day. If you were a account that had, for example, our accounts, long-standing accounts but unverified because I'm not paying for something that I don't give a shit about, meaning a stupid blue check mark or gold check mark that means absolutely nothing, then you were limited to 600 a day. And if you were a paid verified account, so meaning you've paid them the max you can, you still, even then, were limited to 6,000 a day, which sounds like a lot, but if you're a corporate account and you post something at 9 a.m. in the morning and you want to see what the traction is and if it's getting retweeted, that's what you're paying for, you could burn through that very easily. So this fucking fool, who is still revered as some kind of secret genius by his completely deluded fan base, shot his own service in the face. The only thing that differentiates Twitter, really, is the fact that it is essentially, they called it a digital public square, and that is fundamentally, in terms of how it's utilized, true. So this is, to use the analogy, if you had the town crier, and after he said 4 or 5 things at noon, somebody came and duct taped his mouth shut and said, "Come back tomorrow for any more news. Oh, by the way, pay us if you want access, but you still have to come back tomorrow." It's the dumbest. I mean, it really is.
It'll be
hilarious.
Interesting when something horrible happens and they start doing like minute by minute tweets.
Oh well, they'll create exemptions, but this also, and I'm sure this is purely coincidental. This follows reports that Musk is not paying the bills for the data centers that host a lot of Twitter services. I don't suppose there could be any relation to what the bill is, no doubt, for the data services that he's deciding not to pay for, and the fact that there's probably been a realization that they've either fired or don't have people who know how to get around those limits. And so if they didn't do this, what likely would have happened is the service would have simply stopped working. And some people theorize it did. And that's why there was this sudden cutoff, because the rate limit, as he called it, was in effect before he posted the explanation, which makes you wonder. Now, I don't know. I also think that Musk is so fundamentally incompetent that it might not have occurred to him to publicly state what he did, and he could have literally walked down the hall, opened the door, and said, yeah, you know what? I don't want them having unlimited access anymore. Cut it off. And then went back, smoked a joint, photoshopped himself in Iron Man armor for 2 hours, and then went, you know what? I guess I should probably broadcast that in case some of my friends who use this service and are desperate enough to pay me for it actually notice.
I do wonder how the decision making works. Like, is it literally just him walking into a room going, "Hey
yes.
guys,
no,
we're doing this now"?
No, it is. He's gotten rid of anybody else at the top that are not sycophants.
Right.
He's purged the company of all but the. I mean, that was after he fired over 50% of the company. Then there were the reports where people were getting emails saying, we realize that we really do need you because no one else knows what you know. Can you come back? And most of them were like, no, fuck you. So this has been long coming, is that there were going to start to be a breakdown in services. It's actually kind of surprising it hasn't happened sooner.
Well, you know what? This is a great experiment in to what degree does someone have to burn something for people to actually jump ship?
Well, and here was a side effect of it. The biggest logical competitor to Twitter, which is a service called Blue Sky, which is essentially, I'm on it. It is Twitter, except that it's more Wild West right now, which means that, eventually it will change. But right now it is basically sex workers, artists, and weirdos, which is fucking perfect. I love it. I mean, you would like this service now. You would hate it whenever it changes, but right now you would be delighted because it is literally it's weirdos, sex workers, and artists, and it's fucking amazing. It's just the weirdest shit, the most random, funny comedians too are there, but there's no real restrictions yet, so everybody's just doing whatever they want, and they're in fact weaponizing, like, blocking assholes, because on there, and I don't know if you could do this on Twitter, I never even thought to, but it's funny because there was somebody on Blue Sky who said, oh, this hardcore right-wing fucking Nazi guy just joined, pre-block him now so you never have to see his stuff. And I went, really? You can block people without them ever be... And yeah, you can. You could just find somebody like Adolf Hitler was right, whatever, and just block them ahead of time. And you will never, ever... And then this person said, she's like, do it now. We'll wipe him out. Because what's happened is when that happens to people, they leave. So there's almost this kind of... And I know there's that can go very wrong. Gatekeeping is bad. I mean, it's not. It's great when you're on the side of it. It's bad when you're not.
You know what? Listen, it is dangerous, sure, but I think that gatekeeping Nazis is probably not a bad thing.
I mean, I agree about the Nazi thing. Like, so white supremacist Nazis, homophobes, transphobes. I'm fine just purging all these people. I don't care. Yeah. I found a great graphic. Holy shit! I'd never seen this before. It was on. Where did I see it? I don't remember if it was Discord or Blue Sky, one or the other, which are my two favorite things. But it was a very simple graphic, 4 images. The graphic has and it's basically, it's two sets of repeated images, a face on the left, a face on the right. First two, face on the left says, that's against my religion, so I can't do that. Face on the right says, okay, that's fine. Next one, same face, that's against my religion, so you can't do that. Face on the right, hey, fuck you. And I'm like, that's it. That's fucking great. So I posted that everywhere. I was like, this is brilliant. Never seen it before. I mean, it's the most quintessential thing, but I was like, this is delightful.
That goes to the Supreme Court decision, doesn't it?
Well, it does.
Well, I do love how people don't realize that a sword has two sides. And there's two sides to that blade. Because you got these people all sitting there going, well, now I don't have to make cakes for gay people. And then you have all these other people going, yeah, but now I don't have to make cakes for... Christians. Gun nuts, Nazis, Christians.
Literally, here's what I would do. Here's what I would do if I owned a cake store, and I wanted to be as much a piece of shit as the people. By the way, you saw that case is likely invented, that this never even happened, but that's almost besides the point at this point. I would have a Bible sitting at the front of the store. This is me being the biggest prick in the universe, but if I owned a cake store, I would do this because I am the biggest prick in the universe. I'd have a Bible sitting there. Somebody walks in, I'm like, do me a favor. Put your hand on that and swear that you are not a Christian. Now, anybody who isn't, like me, would put my hand on it and say, I am not a Christian. I'd be like, what would you like, sir? Or madam?
No, you know what? If someone told me to do it, I'd be like, dude, fuck your book. What the hell is this bullshit?
No. You're missing the point. But the person who puts it on there and says, I am, I'm like, get out.
I understand your point, but yeah, like you're also,
Why would you care? But that's the point. Why would you care if you're saying I'm not? You would be fine with it because it's nothing.
I suppose my reaction of go fuck your book would probably be, enough.
Well, okay, and that's fine. So if that's your reaction, if you knock the book off the thing, I'm like, okay, that's fine. That tells me what I need to know. Because no true person of that faith would do that. No way.
I still don't understand why people are so irritated with what other people do with their bodies.
I totally agree. However, and this may sound weird coming from me.
Yeah.
I don't really have a problem with the decision because in this country we have established that business trumps people. Period. And under that framework, which is being reinforced constantly all the time,
no, you are correct.
You are free to refuse service to anybody, and if that's your metric, that's why I'm saying that's fine.
But that means, and I just love the fact that all these people are sitting there going, "Yeah, it's a victory for us," and it's like, but you don't realize that. Wait till all the cases of Christians being like, they wouldn't make a cake for my, communion.
Yes, I've said this for a long time. Everybody's fine with it until it becomes something that it's somebody they don't agree with. Then
this is what I loved about the not the Satanists. What are they called? Are they called the Satanists? What is that group called?
The Church of Satan?
The Church of Satan, yes. I love the Church of Satan because they take every religious case and then they turn it into fucking hilarity where it's like, hey, we want to have a religious club at the school. There's a Christian club. Can we have a Satan club? And the school's like, no, you can't. And then they are like, wait a minute, religious rights. And then the school has to sit there and go, oh, shit. And it's like, yeah, guys, that's the thing. It's like, you want to let religion into the school? You got to let all of them in. The Satanists and the Christians.
You know what? I have to ask Coop this. He's a Church of Satan guy. The one thing I've never understood about Church of Satan, because I love them, don't get me wrong, but their whole thing is that isn't the saying "do what thou will" is the whole of the law or something like that? That's something that's associated. I've heard that many times. Associated with Church of Satan.
Don't get into their belief systems. I just like to watch them fuck with the politics.
No, myself. But I hear that said a lot, and I'm like, well, does that mean you could just murder people? It can't, right? I mean, they wouldn't be okay with murder, because that's how that phrase sounds to me. Is you can do anything. That's anarchy, isn't it?
Okay, hold on.
Yeah, I honestly don't know. I'm asking.
No. I have no idea myself, but I'm just saying theoretically based on that system, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you could kill somebody. You could kill somebody, and as long as you get away with it. Because in Christianity, thou shalt not kill. That's one of the rules, right? With Satanism, if that's not a rule, if you do what thou will, as long as you don't get caught or punished for it, I suppose it's okay, isn't it?
Okay, you know what? I should have known. I should have searched for it first. Of course, there is somebody who's asked the exact question, the same way I'm asking it.
Yeah. And
somebody answered and said, in layman's terms, the vital caveat to the phrase is the difference between do what thou wilt, which apparently is the actual saying, and do what you want. Your will is governed by love, respect for yourself, and for the sovereignty of every other individual's will.
Ah, there you go.
If it is not, then it is no longer in accordance with the law. Okay, that makes sense.
It's in the fine print.
I'm glad that somebody said that, because I dig the Church of Satan idea, which is just kind of like, man, be who you want to be as long as you're, because I always thought that the way it was phrased was as long as you're not hurting anybody else. Well, that makes sense then. That's what I always thought about.
And that's the thing to remember too. Like, I think a lot of people, when they hear Church of Satan, they just assume that it's like, devil
actual
worshiping.
Satanists. Yeah, the classic Satanist. It's
that's a different Church of Satan.
Right. Yes. There's a huge bit of that. If you watch Silicon Valley, there's a Church of Satanist who is the funniest character by far on the show. And he explains a lot of that, but he says that do thou as thou wilt thing. And that's where I always went, yeah, but what is that? Now I understand the differential. I mean, I think they should explain that more clearly, because I think a lot of people would do what I did and went, so you can just like burn down somebody's house and be like, whatever, do as I will, it's the whole law. You don't want that. I mean, clearly they don't want that either, because that would be disrespecting somebody else's sovereignty. Well, okay, so it makes sense. That's okay. I should have known to look, because of course somebody else. Of course, I'm not the only idiot in the world who's thought that. So,
You know what? I want you to think of it like this: you can kill someone. You can. You could do it, and then you will be prosecuted and you will be punished for it.
Right, but it still wouldn't be in accordance with the law, which is the second part of the phrase.
No, but honestly, theoretically, if you then allow yourself to be imprisoned and go through the judicial system and the prison system and come out the other end, right? Aren't you? That's weird.
It's not respecting the sovereignty of another living being.
No, it's definitely it's not. But I'm just thinking
unless somebody
about
says, "Please kill me," and you do it.
I'm just like in the realm
euthanasia.
In the realm of government, like if you do the wrong thing, but then you pay your dues for it. You go to prison and and then you come out the other end. I mean, this is the line you see in movies all the time where people are like, I went to prison, I paid my dues. I was sentenced to this long, and
paid
now
my
I'm out.
debt to society.
I paid my debt to society. That's right. Right? I mean,
I agree. Wilt versus Want.
I've been reading a lot of philosophy lately.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of question of the what you should and should not do, and what is worth doing, and all that stuff.
Sure.
But yeah, I think the Church of Satan shouldn't call itself the Church of Satan. I think they should call themselves something else, because they don't actually worship Satan, and I think it gives them a bad rap.
They do, but
because they're hedonists to some extent.
Well, they are, but their definition of Satan is not a horned being necessarily, but Satan is the concept.
Okay.
So it says members do not believe that Satan literally exists and do not worship him. Instead, Satan is viewed as a positive archetype, embracing the Hebrew root of the word Satan as adversary, who represents pride, carnality, and enlightenment. Wow, that's a fucking combo. Holy shit.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
Yeah, I dig these people. I have to say, I've thought about this, and I'm like, yeah, but I don't want to belong to any religion. But if I was going to pick one, this would be it.
Well, this is weird, because, they don't actually believe in him, right?
Not Satan as a being. They believe in it as a...
It's almost, but then it's almost like Buddhism at that. I mean,
yes, no,
it's not Buddhism, but in the fact that it's more of a philosophical belief system.
Yeah.
Even though Buddhism does
I know what you
have
mean.
weird
You're
magical
correct.
elements.
Yes, you're right.
Because they don't have any magical elements. It's not like they have special rituals and.
No, I don't think so. Not
so honestly, I wonder if the Church of Satan is really just could be considered a philosophical system.
Yeah, I guess it could. It's the irony is it's an atheist religion. That's what it's referred to as, which I guess it could be because there's no God involved. So it is in fact a religion with no deity involved.
Yeah,
it's fascinating. It's really interesting.
Can you have a religion, truly a religion with no deity though? I wonder.
I guess it depends on what you define as a religion.
Yeah.
What is religion? Okay, here let's see.
It's definitely a belief system.
Religion is a range of social cultural systems, including designated behaviors and practices, morals, beliefs, worldviews, texts, sanctified places, prophecies, ethics, or organizations that generally relate humanity to supernatural, transcendental, and spiritual elements, although there is no scholarly consensus over what precisely constitutes a religion. There you go. So religion is like anything else, like a favorite color. Which...
Okay, so it is like Buddhism. Buddhism is considered a non-theistic religion.
There you go. So it is. That's
why so is Taoism. Was it Jainism, Buddhism?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Hinduism is sometimes considered a non-theistic religion because it emphasizes following one's dharma or duty more than one worshiping deities.
Sure.
Fascinating.
Yeah, there's lots of interesting details to a lot of this stuff.
Well, I mean, you have definitely made them more interesting to me.
Coop is the one who introduced me to what it was, honestly, because he's one of them, and he was very specific when I heard him talking about it once. Where he's like, "No, we're not worshiping the devil. This is not what that is." And I'm like, "Oh, well, interesting. I didn't know that."
Honestly, I still find their political their political challenges to be hilarious. So, philosophically, that sounds great. You know,
now that I understand what it frames,
yeah. So it's funny. Well, would you like to just let the stream carry us for a while longer, or you want me to bring something to the table?
No, go ahead. What do you got?
I watched the first episode of season 2 of Strange New Worlds.
So did I.
Oh, good. We could.
I've watched the first 2 episodes.
Well, I haven't had that much time. I I found it very amusing that they did a episode without Pike.
Yeah.
Right? I thought that was interesting. I was surprised by how much comedy they got away with.
Yeah. Because
the Spock scene on the bridge with his catchphrase is quite possibly one of the funniest things I've seen in Star Trek.
I agree.
The phrase, I want
the ship to go now. I think that's what it was.
No, I would like to make it go now.
I would like to make it go now. That's it. There you go. Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yep.
And then they changed the Klingons very quietly.
Yes, they have gone back. Somebody wrote an article saying they have now basically said this is what Klingons are, more or less. And I think that's correct.
They just quietly were like, you know what, we'll go do this. And I'm fine with it. I'm here for it.
But, that's the ones everybody likes.
It does make me wonder what the Queen looks like, though, because she was an established character. So but yes, they brought the old design for the Klingons back, which is great.
Yeah, mostly.
And they also referenced the Klingon War, which was like, it was funny for a show that started out as funny as it did. An episode that is, it ended in such it got grim. It got grim when the Doctor was talking about how he was one of the only people who walked away from that battle.
Got Deep Space 90 for a while. I dug it.
Yeah,
that's what I thought. I went, oh, we're getting the Deep Space Nine material now.
And then like how he always carries that drug with him. Like I was like,
again, I'm like,
shit.
this is very Deep Space Nine.
Yeah, and then they basically hop themselves up on some kind of like speed and
super soldier serum. Yeah.
Yeah, and then kick the shit out of a bunch of fucking Klingons.
Like he was about to kill one. He was going to kill a Klingon.
Yeah, he was with his bare hands.
The Doctor was about to murder a living being.
And I've realized that one of the strengths of Strange New Worlds is that anyone who doesn't go on to be part of the actual crew.
Now, maybe you don't know this. The Doctor is in the original series.
Is he really?
Yes, he is. And Benga is in there for a while, actually.
So they can't kill him.
No, they can't kill him.
Yeah, because that's the thing is like anybody who's not a part of the actual crew, they can kind of do what they want.
Most of the key characters exist all the way through.
Even number 1 or number 2. What is
number 1 exists in the original pilot, so she is part of the Menagerie episode because she's part of the flashbacks, and she
really.
Oh yes, she was played by Majel Barrett, the voice of the computer. That's Roddenberry's girlfriend, wife. Yeah. Oh no,
that's crazy.
She was number 1, and I believe it was the network was like, we cannot have a woman in charge, and so that's when they axed the whole thing.
So who is actually not part of the full crew then?
Going by my memory, Ortega, the helmswoman, is not.
Yeah.
I don't think Ortega exists. Hemmer's dead, so he wouldn't count. Carol Kane's character, I don't think is in the main one, so it would be. Well, I can go through the ones who are: Pike, Spock, number 1, and Benga goes past. Because Pike and number 1 do not exist technically outside of the non-pilot pilot. And the Menagerie, she is in some scenes, if I remember correctly. So who else is part of the crew? Who am I forgetting?
No, I take it that the second episode is all Pike.
Uhura, of course. Uhura makes it all the way.
The second episode is all Pike trying to defend number 1, right?
You know what? Yeah. And it's funny because I've heard this complaining. God, the complaining. People are like, the Pike's barely in it. Especially the second one. I heard a review of the second one. I went, this sounds really bad. It was so baseless. I was laughing. I'm like, this is why I don't listen to anybody.
The first, I thought it was so bold of them to start without Pike.
I don't care. Why?
It was still so good.
Yeah, I don't understand the criticisms. I don't understand. Magic
Max's wife, who I can't remember her name, as the new engineer.
Carol Kane. That's who I said. Carol Kane.
Oh, yeah,
she's the ghost of Christmas present from Scrooged.
Oh my God!
It's a toaster. That's her.
I fucking
see
love
now.
Her.
There, I should have had that fucking sound effect ready. That would have been a perfect one to play.
And the way I think I really like they gave everybody such strong characterization. Like nobody's nobody's useless. Everybody has
Right.
like a unique personality, and
Yeah,
you're curious what their shit is. You know what I mean? Like everybody, from like the doctor to the engineer, like, and I'll say this about original Trek. Original Trek, you know, for the time of the time that it was on, it was groundbreaking. But they tried to keep everybody fairly, you know, clean cut, straight. Like, they didn't want to heavily get into the characterization. They didn't want to get into the flaws of people, right?
Not very much, no.
Yeah, there's no super serum doctor
you
kicking
did
the
have
shit
it
out
like
of
when
Klingons.
when the guy turned into a god. It was Shatner's past with it. So, but it's mostly Kirk, Spock were the ones who really got, because there was of course Ponfar and all that. So they did, but it was reserved for a select few. Let's put it like that.
Whereas I do like with Strange New Worlds that the mistake with not mistake, but the thing with Discovery that was always limiting with the Discovery was really about Michael. She was you
got the feeling she was the most important of all time.
She was like 50% of the show, and then the other 50% was divvied around people. And when Pike showed up, I think that Pike's presence was such a big deal that I think it shook that balance. I think that's why I enjoy Discovery with Pike more than without, because without Pike, there's no counterbalance to Michael. All right? And then now in Strange New Worlds, everybody's got airtime. Everybody's interesting. Everybody's going to pull some weird shit out of their hat. And you're going to be like, oh, wow. You know, I didn't realize that, you know? And I like that because that's what Next Gen did. Next Gen gave everybody the opportunity to be interesting, you know, and fascinating. And that's why when you go back and you watch Picard and you sit there and go, I'm so excited about all these characters showing up. Why? Because I know all these characters. All these characters are unique. They had a personality. They had a presence. They had a history, you know. Whereas in Discovery, it's like everybody gets a little shortchanged by how amazing Michael is.
Yeah.
You know? And if anything, and what's sad is I would love the Discovery crew to have something more like a Strange New Worlds. You know? And from what I've read, it's still the Michael show, even once Pike leaves.
Well, it's going to end, so it won't matter.
Well,
it's
I know that.
ending
But
after the next season, so whatever, they'll wrap it up.
what I'm saying is I like the crew. I wish they did more with them.
No, I agree. I completely agree.
So what was the complaint then about...
Oh, man. You know what? Here's what it is. I'll cut out all the specifics and just get to this. People just want what they're used to from before. They don't want anything to change. It's the same thing we've talked about. There are people who just want Star Trek to always be Next Gen or TOS or what. That's always what it comes down to, is people who are like, the original series had it right. Oh, Next Generation had it right. And there's no room for anything else. There really isn't. When you get down to the core, the complaints were just nothing. So did people
actually not like the Captain Spock episode?
No, they don't think Spock should be funny. That is a sacrilege, apparently.
Oh my god!
Even though I would say go watch Star Trek IV, my almost least favorite of the films.
But he's not,
where he's constantly made to be a funny thing.
Yeah,
when
he's not
funny.
being funny because he's funny. What's funny
know.
about Spock is that he's incapable.
This is why I don't understand these criticisms. It's like these are the people who claim to love Trek so much. And yet, you're being really fucking selective about what you think they're screwing up.
Yeah, listen,
because Star Trek 4 is the Spock joke show, and it's stupid.
But that's the thing, if you ask a logical person what their quote-unquote catchphrase is going to be, what the fuck do you think is going to come out of their mouth? It's hilarious, because it's exactly what you expect.
Well, this is why I'm saying all these criticisms actually just make these episodes better, because I go in expecting it to be
he's
bad.
He's not suddenly going to be like, okay, my catchphrase is fucking go. Like, no.
Well, according to these people, Spock should always just be logical and cold. He should never be anything else.
But he was.
No character
he said, make it go. Well, now.
But there were comedic elements with him in the first season. And apparently,
and the thing is,
and there's one thing. Wait till you get to the second episode. Holy shit.
And drinking with the Klingons, he drinks with the Klingons because logically that's what you do with Klingons.
That's not part of it. That's okay.
And but they have a good line. They said when he embraced his anger to deal with the Gorn, they specifically say he unleashed a whole amount of emotion into his system, that he has to come to terms and control it.
Well,
You know what I mean?
apparently that's okay as long as it never figures into comedy for some people. I don't know what to tell you. This is just the rules these people are making up.
I thought it was fantastic.
I have no issue with any of it. The Spock is Spock having humor. I'm sorry to tell these people who seem to be the holy treasurers of what Trek is that that's always been there. So I don't know what you were watching before. Apparently your memory is very selective, which is an understandable trait when you only want to go back and get the same stuff again. Which, as I always say, you know what? Stop watching it. Stop watching it. You're only going to piss yourself off. Go back and watch the stuff that you think is quote-unquote the true version. You'll be happier. Don't waste your time. Just go back and watch it.
Let it evolve.
And then the no Pike thing. This is another complaint. And I'm sitting here going, you really want a show built around one person.
Yeah,
you
hold
really
on.
want that. I don't think you do.
Let's say it's right. We're talking about how we don't want things to change, but we're complaining about Discovery. And let me make this clear. It's not that I want Discovery to be more next gen. It's more so that I don't think Michael is the most interesting character in that show, and the show has decided that she is the most interesting character.
Well,
no,
but you're correct though to say you actually do want it to be more like next gen in that you want focusing on the other interesting characters.
I'm curious about the other characters.
Thing. That's not saying you want it to be next gen, pure, for no other reason.
I want more characterization of the rest of the crew. Yes.
Yeah, if the other characters were drips that you didn't give a shit about, you wouldn't want that. But they've got interesting characters. Trek has traditionally been able to craft secondary characters in an ensemble cast that are good.
Who's the engineer in fucking Discovery who keeps showing up? Who's like, she's just so... what's her name?
She's played by the comedian, right?
Yeah. She's so blasé about everything.
Yeah, what the hell's her name?
There is so much more to that character. I wish they did.
Tia Nictar. What the hell's that?
Tig Notaro, or
yeah, that's it.
Something like that.
Something. Yeah.
I can't remember her name.
Yeah, that.
But
yes.
she's excellent, and whenever she shows up in the show, it's like, oh god, she's so good. Like,
and I think that's what they're trying to go for, a similar thing with Carol Kane. They want to make the engineer is kind of the quirky character now. And I'm sure there are people who are going to bristle against that. Oh, now you're making the... You know what? Again, stop watching it. You're never going to be happy.
When she showed up and they were like, oh, you're an immortal? And she was like, yeah, pretty much. And she's like, now I'm fucking bored.
You know what's great about the ship? It's not boring, and I'm bored. Yeah, I'm fine with that. But I guarantee you there's going to be a 2.5 pages of complaints from people about it. I guarantee.
Yeah, and the thing is, that works perfectly because remember in the Picard episode, like I'm like early day. I'm about fucking like 4 episodes into Picard. One of the issues that the captain of the Titan has is that, Picard and Riker are these big war heroes, and they have all these adventures, and they'd flout the rules, and they did all this crazy shit on their ship, and this isn't that kind of ship. We're not going to do that fucked up shit. And, it's like, yeah, because when you really think about it, the Enterprise has a legacy of always having gotten involved in fucked up shit. There are literally Starfleet ships out there that are boring. Think about that, right? Like, there are Starfleet ships where nothing goes on. It's just, we're going to go here now. Oh, hey, we're greeting these people. Oh, we're going to transport an ambassador. Like, there are boring ships. There are, but the Enterprise is not one of those ships. Because of the people that it ends up with, the Enterprise is always the ship that ends up in all this wacky shit. You know what? They had a different show called Discovery, and an Enterprise still wandered its way onto that show because wacky shit was going on. I love that idea that that it's just a weird ship, and anybody who pays attention for long enough, like say a fucking immortal, is going to sit there and go, the Enterprise sure gets into a lot of shit. I want to be on that ship. So no, so then tell me about the second one, since people are annoyed.
Well, the second, okay. Now, I will preface this by saying I have never, in any version of Trek, every time they do a trial episode, it's only good the first time, and it's not even necessarily that good in its totality. I just want them to get to the trial. I never care. This is original series, Next Gen, Deep Space Nine, any of it. I have never thought that Trek was good at trial episodes because the stuff around the trial is just never... It's always too long. It's always drawn out. And it's very clear that the writers are saving all their power for the trial part, which is understandable. But it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, but Law and Order had the formula right. That's why it ran for so long. 1 hour. 30 minutes in the front is the pursuit. It's what happened, trying to figure out who did it, and kind of usually there's a chase scene, dramatic confrontation, couple twists here and there, and then the second half is the trial part. That's why that formula worked so well. They figured it out, and they locked it in for 20 plus seasons, and it was always good in terms of how it functioned. Great idea. Trek never seems to get it right. It's always too long in the part before the trial episode. It's always, very dry, and it's not bad, but it's stuff where I literally could just skip past to the trial part. Even Measure of a Man, which in any Next Gen fans top 10 to top 5 list, it's likely there if it's not always there. The Data episode where they want to take them apart in the middle of a season that is uniformly almost awful. That is a shining beacon of an episode. Even that one. As soon as the guy shows up and says, "Oh, hey, Data, how you doing?" Yeah, of course he's going to want to take him apart. It's like, okay, let's get to the thing with the trial, man. Get to the part where Riker has got to prosecute him. Like, that's the interesting bit. And it's a small segment of the episode. So it's a trial episode. By default, I don't enjoy Trek trial episodes. So that, along with the bad reviews that I had heard, which were completely off base, I just went and I'm like, okay, I'm just going to have to kind of get through this one. So they're putting number 1 on trial for being genetically altered. Right? Which makes sense because eugenics wars, Khan, all that, all factors in. And Pike has to go to a planet and convince an old friend of number 1's to come and defend her. And, it's, as Trek often is, an analog for, in this case, probably trans rights, but you could make it racism, you could make it sexism, it could make it whateverism, as always. This one is probably trans rights because that's the current thing. But, again, you can slot any injustice you want in here, but they keep talking about how the fact that just because someone has changed themselves,
being
they're
different.
Still,
it's always it's always the same thing.
Well, but
different.
It is, but they talk a lot about just because you've made yourself into something else that shouldn't contain. So it feels like it's and that's again for people who are like, oh, they're injecting politics into my Trek. Fucking shut up.
They
Go
always
back.
have.
That's
the
what I'm
first
saying.
black-white kiss on TV.
And the episode with the half-white, half-black guys. That's what do you think that is? That's not subtle writing, everybody. They were painted half-black, half-white.
Star Trek has always pushed the envelope.
I know, and that's why when I keep hearing the same old bullshit, it's woke politics. Okay, stop watching it and go back and watch it.
It was always woke politics. It was a future where everybody got along.
But this is why.
That's what pissed everybody off, whether they realized it or not. That's what pissed everybody off about the first 2 seasons of Picard. Because it was a Starfleet where everything was fucked up. And everyone was like, that's not our Starfleet.
However, this is the one proper way to frame the criticism, if this is in fact what you actually mean. And a lot of times I don't think it is. The second season of Picard was all about immigrants. The problem was it was written like shit. That's worse. You can put whatever messaging you want in. Because I just talked about, by the way, this is really important to distinguish because people will immediately say, oh, well, you must just be some leftist hippie. Well, yeah, I am. But besides that, I used to watch Law & Order a lot, and I've always liked the show, especially in its first 9 or 10 seasons. And you can't possibly read that as anything other than glorifying the police, who almost were never making the wrong person the blame for what's going on. It was glorifying a non-corrupt police system, which is not reality. And
but you're already existing in a fiction where there is no corruption.
But if it's well written, that's why I'm saying the messaging is secondary to good writing. You will kind of just go, okay, this is well written, even if when I break this down, maybe I don't agree with it. That's what people should be upset about, is a badly written series, which Picard Season 2 most certainly was. I don't give a shit what the message was. It was written like fucking garbage.
Yeah, and if they write if they do another season with 7 and 9 as the captain,
I'm all for it.
And they write it well, fucking hell, let's go.
Right. No, I agree. So, so anyway, second episode's trial episode, and basically, of course, number 1 gets exonerated because actually, I really do like the legal what was it the way the trial is resolved is clever. It's one of those things where it's clever because they establish a series of things and then they tie it all into a bow at the end. And essentially, what it ends up being is that what her revelation of herself to Pike and his subsequent hiding of that fact constitutes asylum. And under Starfleet law, you have to grant asylum if it is asked for by someone who reasonably expects persecution. It just so happens in this case, the persecutors are the Federation, which is nice. It's a nice little way to do it. That's what I mean.
Yeah, interesting.
The trial part is great. Everything else, I will skip probably the next time because I already know it. Like, there's nothing interesting. It's just dragging it out, you know? But the trial part is great, which is always what it is with me in Trek. The trial part is worth the episode. I'll bear with the rest to get to the trial part. The trial part's great. So there again, people were complaining about Pike not being in it. So when he left to go find the prosecutor, I expected him to be gone for, I'd say, 70% of the episode. He's not. These people just won't be happy unless he is literally doing exactly what Picard never did, which is charging out front like Shatner did. That's just Kirk again. Is that really what you want? You just want them all to be the same? I don't understand why you're watching this show, everybody. If you hate this stuff so much...
Classically, the captain's supposed to send a fucking crew of other people to do that. He's
course.
The captain. The fact that Kirk did it is an element of his character. He's reckless. He goes out with the away crew. And the away crew is supposed to be like security and science officers.
Yeah. Would you really just want somebody else attempting to do Kirk again? Is that because I think your complaint then would be, this is like Kirk. I've already seen Kirk done better. Stop watching the show. Just stop. Do what I did with Discovery. Once I realized it wasn't for me anymore, I just checked out. And I was fine with it. People love it. Good. Let them love it. Let them love it. You don't have to. Nobody's holding a gun to your head to make you watch anything. Stop.
And the funny thing is, I don't dislike the character of Michael. The character's fine.
No, it was the way the character was used.
I just don't need that much. It's kind of like someone being like, hey, this is a chocolate bar with peanuts, right? And you love peanuts. And then they give it to you, and it's like, there's one peanut in this chocolate bar. You're like, that's not a chocolate bar with peanuts. That's the chocolate bar with a peanut. That's Discovery. Discovery is the Michael show.
And
I don't need that much Michael.
Any character that you get that much time with, I'm sorry, you're going to get bored of them. It's like even the greatest characters that people love. A lot of that is because you only get a certain amount of time with them. One of the reasons that Indiana Jones was great as a trilogy and really should never have gone any further is because you got just enough of the character to know what he was about without having to start overdoing it. You know, that's it. 3 movies was good. First movie establishes the character and what he's about.
This is the whole classic beginning, middle, and end. You have a beginning, middle, and end, and you don't need any more. Yeah.
But even so, I mean, if we had gotten a whole series of Indiana Jones,
we did
a show.
But we did.
No, with Harrison Ford like that.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, young Indiana Jones gave you everything you needed to know about Indiana Jones.
and you know what? It didn't last that long. People apparently didn't want it. So again, this is what I'm saying is, you know, anything where you get too much of it, yeah, you're going to start to get bored of it, especially if it's a very defined character. And Michael is, because we've now spent 4 seasons with everything focused on her. What left is there for us to know? This is where you want to deviate off. So again, I'm glad that they're not all Pike episodes, because I like knowing what the other characters are, and I can use a little break from Pike. Then when he comes back, I'm like, hey, look, Pike's back. And usually he's gone because he's doing a pikey thing.
What's funny is that I was really curious to see. I haven't watched the 3rd episode, so I'm curious to find out if there's any kind of Pike reaction to what happened without him. You know,
as far as them stealing the ship.
Yeah.
Well, they get into that because he's back on the ship in the second one. No, he doesn't.
Oh, okay.
You know, he says something about. I think I'm trying to remember if it was something along the lines of, "Well, that's probably what I would have done." So you know, someday you'll be a great captain, or something like that. You know, some type of thing. He doesn't care. They didn't break the ship.
But I will say this: the ship design of the Klingon copy in the 1st episode.
Yeah.
There was a brief moment when that thing surfaced that I was like, "Is that an Excelsior?"
Yeah. No, it's not.
And I was like, it isn't. Fuck.
No.
I need some Excelsior.
No, the Titan is what they've based is from the Excelsior. That's where you can see it. The Titan has that. The Titan has the Excelsior body.
But it's not. I want the Excelsior.
Look, I want a Sulu series with Excelsior. I still want it. It's too bad George Takei never got a chance to do it. I'll still take it with somebody else.
I know.
But you know what? Somebody else can do it. I'm fine with recasting. It's okay.
Well,
They
they
did it
listen.
with Kirk, and it's fine.
They've recast everybody else, so
That's
we
what
might
I'm
as well
saying.
go with it.
So I would be fine with an Excelsior series.
And this is the thing. You know what? We don't need to deep fake actors. Just recast them. It's okay.
No, I agree.
You know,
Yeah.
honestly, they should. Yeah. When I found out, even though, listen, I don't have problems with the Luke Skywalker deep fake. It works as long as you're using it.
Hamill said the same thing. Recast it already.
Yeah. But when they said that they might bring in, was it? The Winter Soldier. What's his name?
Sebastian
Stan. Sebastian Stan.
That's it. Yeah.
When they said they might have him come on and have him be like, because that was the rumor. I was like, you know what?
Sebastian Shaw is the head of the Reavers. Sorry, everybody. Mixed my X-Men in there.
Yeah, Sebastian Stan. He'd be a great Luke Skywalker.
Sure he would.
Then you could do a ton of new shit.
Yes, I agree.
Go by all means. You know,
yeah, nobody would care.
You know, my son is watching. So my son got into Bad Batch, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he watched all the Bad Batch, and then he got into like all the Filoni shows. So he watched all the Filoni shit.
Sure.
And he just got toward the end of Rebels, and he saw the old clones. So like Rex was shit was there.
Oh yeah, sure.
And he asked me. He goes, "Is Rex in any of the movies?" And I was like, "Well, you know, there's a rumor that he's in Return of the Jedi." And he was like, "What?" And I showed him the picture of the guy in Return of the Jedi, who even Filoni has joked around that maybe that's Rex. Yeah. And like, I gotta say, I don't know if Filoni did it on purpose, but that guy looks a lot like the character, the old version of Rex.
Could be.
And it's very amusing that, yeah, of course you would want an old Special Forces clone to be on your special mission to the moons of Endor. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's just funny, you know, how you try and tie in all the between material into the old material. You know, I mean,
it does seem like it can't be accidental.
No, it looks. I mean, if you look at the final.
Honestly, why would Filoni not do that? Why would he not be
like,
you know what? Nobody cares. It
ties him into the big picture. Yeah, especially since at one point that guy, the bearded guy, he dresses up like a clone, like a speed trooper. What do you call this guy? Scout trooper.
Scout trooper.
Yeah, so it's like, that's fantastic. Tie it all together. I love when things are tied together.
Especially like that, where it really doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't. It's just
minor.
funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like I would have been fine with recasting. Just recast. Yep. You should have recast Indiana Jones. You should have recast him, and you should have done some other fucking movies that take place between the other ones. I'd have been fine with it. Yeah. Even just reference them. Listen, James Bond gets recast constantly.
I know.
And there's always a vague reference to other stuff, but then it's like, oh, this is new, or is it not new, or is it? You know, it's like it doesn't matter. We've come to hang out with James Bond. We're here. You know, so I think we need to get over this whole. I mean, it is amusing. Listen, Michael Keaton coming back as Batman, fucking awesome.
Sure.
And I have read that he's probably one of the best parts of that movie.
I've read he is the best part of that movie.
Well, there you go. But that doesn't mean that I can't have other Batmans. There are lots of other Batmans.
Right, of course.
We've had tons. You know. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the movie ends with George Clooney, so.
Oh man, when I read that, I laughed my ass off.
That's funny.
Because.
It's funny
because the fact they got George Clooney to come back for that, because he's always referred to Batman being one of the biggest mistakes he's ever made.
But of course, as a joke, he'd be in for it. Sure.
It's great. I mean, it's not going anywhere. Like that movie is essentially a dead terminal, isn't it?
As far as I understand,
yeah. Even though I read that the Supergirl was quite good.
Yep. Too bad. Nobody cares.
Too bad.
Yeah.
Oh, well. Isn't there some sort of giant thing going on with the CG for that movie? Like how it...
Yeah, apparently it's bad, and they're trying to say it's intentionally bad. Who cares?
Oh, okay.
It's not like the CG's been good in any of the other ones, really.
You know, my kids were asking me about
Man of Steel had a sea of flying dildos, so whatever.
All right, so my kids asked me why certain movies that they enjoy have really bad special effects. And I was trying to explain to them. I was like, listen, guys. I was like, there was a time where you could only do so much with special effects. And there was a time where there was no special effects. And I said, you know, if you go back to Shakespeare, there wasn't even a set. There were just costumes. And you had to envision it all through the language and the movements of the characters, right? And as time has gone on, they've tried harder and harder to create realistic, imaginary environments. I was like, and I find I get more enjoyment out of all this as long as I just let a lot of it go. Because think about it. Like, I know practical effects are more realistic and that they provide a physicality, right? But the movie business is all about the movie business. So if they can do it cheaper with CG, they will. If the writing is good, I will let a lot of special effects fuck-ups go. Because I know that the story is good. And as long as, like, I'm there, the story is good, I'm there for the story, then it's like, yeah, I'll suspend my disbelief. You know? I'll let the fact go. Like, this goes back to the Mark Hamill deepfake. No, it wasn't perfect. But I was fine with him showing up at the end of season 2 of Mandalorian and taking the kid. Now, they fucking backed that up as quickly as fucking possible, which is annoying. But I was fine with it because it worked in my context of the story. He showed up at the end. Yeah, he's around. You know, I'm okay if the special effects aren't great. Do I want them to be perfect? Sure. But I shoot myself in the foot by not going to see stuff just because the CG might be bad. Because there's plenty of movies we've watched that are low budget and the special effects are bad. And I know the thing is that we expect more because they have more money. But maybe at the end of the day, we should just expect the writing to be good. Just give me good writing, and you know what? I'll let the flaws go because the movie will be so good otherwise. You know, think about it. Can you think of movies that you really like where the special effects are awful, but the movies themselves are great? Oh, you know what? I do have a good example.
Go ahead.
Fucking, I love The Mummy too. Love it. Love that movie. But fucking the Scorpion King at the end is probably one of the worst CGs I have seen. And that doesn't detract from the fact that I adore that movie. It's fantastic.
I mean, I can think of a ton. Even Batman. When the Joker falls, that animation is awful.
Oh, yeah. It's like hand-drawn.
Awful. Yeah, it's really bad.
But you love the movie.
RoboCop, when Dick Jones gets dropped, his arms are 8 feet long because it's stop motion and the puppet is terrible.
Yeah, when
go watch that scene again. And
when Ironside falls in Total Recall, you can clearly see his the arms and the.
Well, I mean, honestly, the facial models when the eyes are popping out do not look real at all.
You know, one of the things I found out a while back. I love that there is a industry for amputee extras.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
So basically,
well, that's the thing. The thing is, when the guy's arms get chopped off, they made a mask of the actor's face. Yeah. And put it on somebody with no arms and then tore the arms off. It's fake, and that's why that effect is so good.
Yeah, and like people getting their legs cut off, and you're like, oh yeah, he's an amputee. I'm like, that is
it's great.
That would be we would consider that practical effects, right?
That's the essence of practical effects there.
I know, and the thing is, I love that. But at the end of the day, if the writing is good, I'll let a lot of the effects go.
Absolutely.
So.
I mean, come on. Do you think that those 50s movies with the stop-motion dinosaurs, and anybody believe that stuff was real?
Well, come on. All the Sinbad movies, all the Hercules movies.
Nobody cared because the story was good.
No, because you were like, yes, right. You know, Hercules is going to kick the shit out of some stuff. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I really enjoy Strange New Worlds this new season. Season so far. I think it's great. I think the writing is enjoyable. It manages to be heavy and lighthearted all at once. And honestly, if there's going to be a war with the Gorn, dude, I am fucking curious. Because the Gorn episode is probably one of the most intense episodes of Star Trek in a while.
It's very good.
You know?
Yeah.
For all the intensity of Discovery, like that whole finale where they're fighting like 20 ships and drones.
That's nothing.
And like it went on for a while. Like after a while, you were like, "You guys have been destroyed for 2 episodes here." Yeah. Whereas that one Gorn episode, you're like, "There's like, you know, Spock is having a meltdown, and everybody is like losing their minds, and you know, and then they kill off one of the crew." Yeah. So, So that's all I got for this week. I've been trying to unpack all my shit. Sure. So I don't have I don't know, but I did discover one piece of technology that I want to mention because I happened on it by chance and I fucking adore it. Have you ever seen this nanoleaf stuff?
Yes.
It's like
That's why I
these
told you. I
LED
said, "Oh yeah, I like those." When you
Yeah,
showed
the
me, so
LED
those
panels.
have been around for a while. Yeah.
Yeah,
great.
you know what? I know I saw them at Home Depot, like the hardware store, 100 times. But I was like, in my new office, I was like, you know what? It's like I want to try something different, and I got a few of these panels. They're a little pricey. Let's get that up front. But I fucking love them, man. I put them on my wall. I'm looking at them right now, and I have them this like rainbow, like color shift where it's like slowly shifting through, and I'm just mesmerized. It's like watching cuttlefish swim by. I just want to mention them because they took a drab environment and made them very I don't know. It made me think of cyberpunk. It made me think of like neon signs, but like in a good way. Did you? This is gonna sound like a weird thing. You ever stayed in a hotel that was right next to a neon sign in a city?
Yeah, I love it. It's the best thing.
And you get that neon glow
It's
through
the
the
best
windows.
thing. Yes.
Having this on the wall is like that. It's like having the neon glow trying to come in through the wall. I love it. So I just wanted to mention that technology. Like I said, it's pricey, but it's a lot of fun. Especially if you're like me, where it's like you like to place things very specifically. I got the honeycomb pattern like all across the wall, slowly creeping. And apparently this company is going to be doing ceiling panels now of some kind.
Oh, they've made a bunch of money, so I'm not surprised.
Yeah, but yeah, they are very cool. I usually find this shit to be, these technologies to be a letdown of some kind or another. But I have to say, the Nanoleaf shit is fucking awesome. Expensive, but awesome. Especially if you've got any kind of creativity with your layout. Like you can really just, I think this is probably the shortcoming of this. It's like the Sucre thing, right? It's your customers are limited by their own imagination. Right? Whereas, yeah, you could just put these out in a very basic, boring grid, but like, slowly spreading it out and like placing it just right, and yeah, it really elevates the environment. So I figured I'd just have my quick technology review. Nanoleaf, expensive but awesome.
Well, speaking of expensive but awesome, sort of, I forgot. I did this review while you were off. But I wanted to talk with you about the first season of Severance, the Apple TV show.
Oh, that's the about going into the office.
Uh-huh.
Yes, the Ben Stiller directed series, right?
Yes.
Is he the director or the showrunner?
Both. He directed, I don't think every episode, but several of them. I believe the opener, closer, and other ones in between.
I had read that there was something very wild about that show.
Oh, man. And I'll tell you. A lot of times when shows get the attention and the hype like this, it's like, okay, I'm going to temper my enthusiasm for it because it's probably not going to be anywhere near what these people are saying. Especially with the Apple TV stuff, because that was an early one. I went, okay, this is because people really want Apple TV to be a thing. And I've read and seen some of their other stuff, and it's fine. It's not really great.
You know what? I watched that show 3-0. Was it 3-0? No, what is that show about the Marine husband and brother who lose the sister?
Yeah,
wife?
I don't remember, but you did say you liked that.
I started to enjoy it, but I got about 3/4 of the way, and it just felt like it lost steam.
Well, that's that, and like my experience with the Peripheral, like I'm like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
let's dial back the expectations. But Sam and I both, my wife watched it and at first it seemed like might be a little too weird for her because it's got a little weirdo right in the first episode, and then we both came out of it and said, man, this is one of the best shows we've ever seen. Both of us thought it was absolutely stellar. And the whole thing about expensive but good, that show, man, they poured some money into it because it has beautiful visuals top to bottom. Just gorgeous to look at. Music is really good. The people are all really good. John Turturro's in it. Adam Scott's in it. In a serious role when I'm mostly from comedy, and he's really good in it. I don't know who the woman is. I don't know. I'm not really familiar with her, but she's great too. And the other guy, the kind of portly fellow, I don't know what his name is, but I think he's a comedian of some kind, maybe normally in movies, but great too. But the whole thing is, I mean, it's a very interesting show in what it's saying, which is specifically saying people should not be identifying with their jobs. Your life is not your job. That's the message. Like, that is the top to bottom message of this thing, is the minute that you start thinking of your job as anything more than a place where you are paid to do exactly what you're paid to do, you are now their slave, which is absolutely true. The minute you start identifying or anthropomorphizing your work, you're done, because now they own you. That's the underlying message. I mean, there's also the whole thing about, you know, dealing with grief and trauma, because that's why the main character is doing this, is because his wife died, even though she really didn't. But he thinks she's dead, and so he wants to not have to think about her being dead for the time he's at work. So he chooses this as a way to disconnect from his pain. And of course, as you would expect, that doesn't really work, because you can't really do that to your brain. Even though they think they have, they actually haven't. It is possible for you to be reintegrated, even though everybody says it can't. Your memories do bleed. There is something that goes on there. And so really it's just about these four main characters that work in this company that you have no idea what they're doing. And as it goes on, you find out that it's essentially it's like Jonestown, but as a company. I don't know how else to really put it, because they all worship, literally, that the company handbook is a Bible. Not a Bible meaning the King James Bible, but a Bible in the way that all the company's rules and everything are written out. It is formatted as the Bible. People sing hymns about the founder of the company. You know, there's all this stuff about, you know, the good of society from your work, and yet nobody knows what they're actually doing. And the company is this weird thing that their rewards are... it's hard to get into without explaining the whole thing, but essentially it centers around those four people, and it is stellar. I mean, it's just fantastic. The visuals, it's got this very specific look and feel to it, which is really great, because there's not anything else quite like it except for maybe the Portal games. That's the first thing I thought of, is, when you're wandering around, especially in Portal 2,
these kind of cold... These kind of
cold
environments.
Future retro offices where they're both way ahead in terms of some technology, but also exceptionally retro in other ones, you know, which is kind of a big aesthetic at the moment. But this one does it really well. Again, the music is fantastic, and everybody in it is really good. So, I still don't know what the company does specifically, but their goal is to make everybody have these chips in their head for anything. Just the idea that you could just sever your brain whenever you just don't like something. Which, of course, is terrifying. Some of the stuff I think most people will guess at, probably. Not everything, but there's the kind of the big reveals. If you watch a lot of this kind of stuff, you'll know it. I guessed at one of the big things, sort of. I didn't get it all the way, but I got close. Which is the three, Adam Scott, John Turturro, and the other guy. I'm sorry, I don't know what his name is. I can't remember his name. Dylan, I think is his name. They've been there for a while, and a new person comes in to replace somebody else, who you find out has had his brain reintegrated, and he's trying to tell Adam Scott, you know, that this is happening, this thing is going on, and it's not what they're telling you it is, because he's managed to figure it out. And this new woman comes in and immediately wants to quit, and the way that they keep kind of beating her, or any of them, when they want to, quote, resign, which they say you can do at any time, which of course you can't, is... once she goes into the elevator, when you go up a floor, your old brain comes back, and that old brain says, no, I don't want to resign, put me back in. And so she's basically fighting herself. And there's a part where she just fucking tries to kill herself, which is exactly what my response would be too. Where if I didn't want to be there, and my other self was telling me I had to be there, I'd be like, okay, I'll show you. And I mean, I knew that was coming a mile away. I'm like, this woman is going to try to kill herself, because that's what this person is going to do. Because that's what I would.
That she couldn't send herself a message.
No, you don't understand.
Yeah.
The other person doesn't want her to disconnect. And in fact, when she tries to kill herself, after she tries to kill herself, there's a part where she says, she takes a paper cutter and holds it to her wrist and says, I want you to write my resignation down and have it signed and make sure that it can't be broken. Right? So she's threatening to cut her own wrists. And she says, and I want to walk out this door, and I don't want anybody to stop me. And she goes out, and then immediately comes back, and then they play a video of herself, and this was the key thing that gave it away for me. And the woman's like, if you ever try to injure me again, I will make sure that you live to regret it. Like cutthroat. And my instant thing was, she works for this company. Now, I was partially right. She doesn't work for the company. She's the daughter of the founder.
Oh.
And she's doing it to prove, because they're trying to get Congress to pass the ability for them to do these chips for everybody. She's trying to prove it's so safe, I do it myself. At which point, and then that's after she gets that video. That's when she tries to kill herself. I'm sorry, I reversed those. And that was when I said, yeah, if that bitch told me that she was going to fuck me up, I'd just kill myself there. Like, I'll show the fuck you, which is me, of course. But it's like, that level of spite.
The problem is you're creating multiple personalities.
Well, that's kind of it. And then, so there's a point where they discover, because they're told that the procedure, that the flip switch can only activate when they go down the elevator. Well, of course, that's not true. The company can do it whenever they want. If they have the technology to do it, they can do it anywhere. And they have what's called the overtime protocol. If they activate that, they can flip you even when you're not at work. So they flip this guy, and he's at home with his kids, which he didn't know, because they're called innies and outies. Innies only know the job. They know nothing about their other lives, except, oh man, this shit is so creepy, because it's not that far from what actually happens, except for the chip part, where if they feel like you're too stressed, you get a wellness reprieve, where you go in an office with this woman, and she tells you good things about your outer self. Your outie is kind. Your outie likes to help women cross the street. And it's supposed to be so that you're doing this for a good person. So you being here is to make this good life possible, which is fucking creepy. And again, not that far from actual corporate shit. So they wake him up, and he's at home, and he has kids. And he's like, are these my kids? And the guy who woke him up is like, yeah, but don't worry about that. I told them to stay in the other room. We need you to tell us something, because he had removed something from an office he shouldn't have. And then they turn him back off. And then another one, the John Turturro character, who starts off the series as very dedicated to the company. Like, doesn't want anybody deviating. He's a company guy. And then slowly starts to realize that what he's being told isn't really true, that there's other stuff going on. And he's having he'll fall asleep, which you're not supposed to do, but he falls asleep. And like this black goo starts seeping down from everything around him. And that was the part where Sam turned to me and she's like, this is fucking strange. And I'm like, let's bear with it. Let's see. Because that's right in like the first episode. But I thought, oh man, this is some kind of weird supernatural thing. But no, in his outer life, he is dedicated to trying to bring down this company. And he is tormented by nightmares of what is referred to as the break room. And what he does is he paints paintings, the same paintings every time, with black, thick paint. And so what he's dreaming about inside is the black paint seeping into his life. On the outside, he's painting a door that he knows nothing about, because that's his inside life. So it's in his mind, but he doesn't know what it is, but he's compelled to paint it. And the break room is a place where they go and they...
And you never find out what the point of all this is.
Well, not yet. I mean, it's being slowly revealed. I mean, the whole first season is really getting up to the point of understanding that, that the outside switch works, and this moment where the one guy stays behind and turns them all on while they're outside, so that they can tell somebody what's happening, because the world outside has been told that everybody's happy and that they're great, that this is a great thing because it lets people work and not have to be stressed about work, and that they're taken care of very well. And of course, that's all bullshit. There's all this terrible stuff. They're being tortured in a very clinical way. So you don't walk out with bruises. There's none of that stuff. No, what they do is like the break room. If you break a rule, you're sent to the break room. In the break room, you sit on with it, and you have to read this phrase about how you're sorry for what you did, and you realize that what you did is negative influence on the world, and that by acknowledging your sorrow, you are in fact contributing to the good of the world. And you have to read it and read it and read it until their little, I guess, a polygraph machine verifies that you believe it. And by that time, most people are broken down. It's like torture. I mean, it is like, Chinese water torture type stuff, where you're dripping something on somebody, where, yeah, eventually you'll say anything to stop it. And so the woman comes back from doing that one point, or somebody comes back and says how many times, and the number's like 3,700. She had to read this thing over and over and over and over. And of course, at that point, anybody would just say yes. I mean, you will believe it. It's like the 4 lights. I see 5 lights.
There's massive amounts of brainwashing. And,
right. Yeah. Same thing. Right. So that's what this guy's painting, because he's had to go to the break room more than once. He's painting this dark hallway that leads to the break room. Subconsciously, he has nightmares about it because it's a torture chamber. So he's painting it compulsively, and that's why inside his inner self is dreaming about this paint that is seeping in. It's the paint he's using. So the season is really, it's a very deliberate series of reveals about things to show. So no, you don't know what the company's doing, but it can't possibly be good. But it's excellent. I mean, the only bad thing about it, except this is Apple, so Apple has more money than most governments do, is unlike, if this was Netflix or somebody else, the fact that it ends on a cliffhanger, I'd be more concerned. But since it's Apple, I'm not concerned. And it's one of their highest rated things, and they do want to make their TV service work. So they're going to stick with what works.
Oh, yeah, I have found that with Apple, their TV shows are quite good, and they put the money into them.
I found them to be mostly okay, but none of them that I really reacted to like this.
When I say quite good, what I mean is that, like, production-wise, they're quite good.
Oh, yeah, they look great.
Writing can always go wrong, but production-wise, they always put the money in.
Yeah, no, that's true.
They're not going to shortchange their shit. That's what I'm saying.
True, yeah.
Well,
Yeah, so that one is as good as people say.
I've had an interest. I just haven't gotten around to it.
Yeah, well, that's fine. I mean, look, the first season's been out for a while. We didn't get to it till literally while you were moving. So it's not as if we jumped right on it. And part of that was because, like I said, a lot of times when I hear this stuff, I'm like, yeah, okay. A lot of stuff that most people like, I generally find to be okay, but I never am all that enthusiastic about it, or generally am not. So I wasn't in any hurry. But we were in between stuff, and I'm like, you know what? We've been putting this off for a while. Let's watch the first couple episodes. Let's see if this thing is any good at all. Because if it's not, then we'll just move to something else. So
yeah.
And I did get reminded a lot of that show Devs that I like. A lot.
Yes, there was a strong Devs vibe looking at the trailers.
Yeah, I mean, it's very, very, very different material, but it is that same level of precision, filmmaking or whatever, cinematic technique, whatever you want to call it. But it clearly is a very clear artistic vision that is maintained throughout. And that's the similarity. Whereas Devs was actually just one person directing the entire thing. That was also a sealed off series, so there was no continuation. That's a difference. But this and that's where it could, if for some reason, I don't know, Ben Stiller and Apple have a falling out or something. The only bad thing about Apple in terms of TV is they're kind of like Disney. It's one of the consistent criticisms is you're going to know it's an Apple TV thing because it's always going to have this line it won't cross. And that is true in Severance as well, but it doesn't really matter. As an example, one of the corporate rewards that everybody keeps referring to is what's called a waffle party. And no, I'm serious. And the show, the one guy, Dylan, the portly actor, comedian guy, he's got all these little knickknacks and things that he's gotten because he's, done his work consistently before everybody else, like he's hit all his goals. Again, typical corporate stuff where you get a reward or a trophy or whatever because you worked harder and faster than somebody else. And they're mostly kind of things like little paper finger traps or I don't remember what they are, like erasers, like stupid little knick-knack Spencer gift type stuff.
Yeah,
and he's gotten waffle parties before, so he gets a waffle party. And he does that as part of their plan. He's the one who stays behind and holds the overtime switches on. So the thing is that's why he wouldn't be expected to be in sight of everybody else because he's getting his special reward. And you see him get taken down he's holding a box and he's sent down into this house, which is a recreation of the founder's house from top to bottom, kind of like you would see it like historic Williamsburg or whatever, like Lincoln's house or whoever's house. And he goes in and there's literally a plate of waffles and he's eating them and there's words underneath. And the words say, now go to the founder's bed. And then there's a mask. So he puts the mask on, he lays in the bed, at which point all these people come out and they start basically doing a burlesque show. And what this clearly is going to become is an orgy. But they're not nude. They're all dressed in lingerie. Like, it will not cross a certain line. That's an Apple TV thing that I've read about all their stuff. There's a certain line that they won't cross. And you get that very clearly, because if this was HBO, they would all be completely nude top to bottom. No doubt about it. In this, they're all clothed, and then he basically leaves to go run to the overtime room so that they never actually have to get unclothed or show any type of sex, anything that might be a little too much for Apple. So that's the only thing. Again, it doesn't affect Severance, because there's never a point where you feel that restraint, really. The stuff that they're doing is so good it doesn't matter. But that is something I've noticed in their other shows, is that, they'll curse, but there's like a sanitary nature to it. There's a sterility to some of their stuff where you can, and that's what a lot of people have complained about, like with some of their other shows that I haven't watched, but that there's always kind of this boundary that you can always tell that somebody's from Apple is standing there watching it and saying, no, don't do that, or make sure you don't do that. But like I said, doesn't apply for this. This show is fine without it. It's never that visible that I noticed it, but I have sort of detected it in other shows of theirs. But like I said, most of their other stuff doesn't really work for me, so I don't really care. Severance is great. So use a free trial, watch it, cancel. Or keep it, whatever, it's fine. Or wait till the second season comes out, but that could be a while. But even just the first season, even with the cliffhanger, it's still worth seeing. It's still that good that I would say don't worry about it, go ahead and watch it. But yeah, by all means, if you don't want to pay for it, which I totally understand, we didn't, we used the free trial. Use a free trial, watch it, and then just cancel it or let it lapse, whatever. But that is the only thing so far I've seen that I would say is absolutely worth even using the free trial for. It is that good. So, and my wife agreed, and she's not into nearly as much weird shit as I am. So, the fact that we both had the same reaction, kind of like Shawshank Redemption, I was like, yeah, that's a pretty good gauge. That's a everybody likes Shawshank Redemption type thing. Like Severance is when I can say everybody's going to like this, unless of course you're an executive at a company that does this kind of creepy shit to people, in which case you're going to feel like it's a trigger towards you, and it is. Outside of that, you'd be fine. So, Severance, fucking awesome. And on that note, we shall bring it to a close and say, what the hell did you watch? What were you talking about?
Strange New Worlds.
Strange New Worlds. What was the other one? What was the other one you said? You said you watched something from Apple that was all right. What was it?
It was the Zero something.
Oh yeah, but you said you kind of peeled down.
About 3/4 of the way, it kind of lost some steam.
Okay.
And we walked and lost it enough that we walked away. But honestly, all the long way arounds, that show by Hugh McGregor where he drives around the world, or he drives around the world one way, then he drives around the world another way. Those are all on Apple. They bought those. They bought the first two, and then they funded the third one.
Yeah, well, there you go.
So those are on there. And honestly, Prehistoric Planet, I like me some dinosaurs.
Okay, yeah, the stuff that's non-fictional is, that's supposed to, all their documentary stuff I've always heard is good. So I have no trouble believing that. I'm talking about like their scripted fictional stuff. That's
Slow Horses. Slow Horses is fucking awesome.
Is that Apple or is that Amazon? That's Apple?
That's Apple.
Oh, okay. Well, I haven't watched that. Yeah. So there you go. So that I knew there was another one you liked. That was it.
Slow Horses is really good. No, the quality of their shows is pretty good, and the writing is mostly good.
Okay.
So,
well,
I'm not. But there's also a small amount of it.
Well, that's true. But it is.
They don't have the vast sea of shit that.
And that's why
Amazon,
I'm saying a free trial will probably get you what you need. Because I think it's 1 or 3 months. Well, in 1 or 3 months, you're probably going to make your way through everything Apple's got that you really care about, or pay for one extra month and you'll go through it.
Yeah, if you've got the time.
Yeah. But Severance is great. And Strange New Worlds, whatever. People don't want to like it. Tell them, don't ignore that. It's good. and here, quick tip, and you can apply this to any show. If you watch more than a couple episodes and it's not good, just walk away from it.
Stop.
Watch something else. There is so much out there that I guarantee you'll find something that you think is good. And even if somehow you can't, but
the problem is people dislike shows, and then they want everyone else to dislike the show as well.
Well, don't be one of those people.
It's like, no, just walk away.
You're only getting so many revolutions around the sun. Don't waste it trying to poison either yourself or others with stuff you just don't like. Stick with the stuff you do like, because worst case, you can always... Paramount Plus, yes, it has, if you don't like the new stuff, that new stuff's there, but so's the old stuff. Stuff that you like. Why waste time with the new stuff you don't like? Go back to the old stuff that you did like. It's still going to be good. The new stuff can't hurt it. That's the beauty. I don't care if the new Star Wars movies suck, because I got the old ones. Well, I have a copy of the old ones before they were altered. But even so, they're around. You can go watch that stuff. That's what you should do with your time. Go enjoy things. Don't waste your time on disliking things. There's going to be plenty of shit in life that you're going to have to dislike and endure it. Don't take the optional dislikes. Only stick with the necessary ones. When you have an option, go for what you like. And on that note, have a wonderful weekend. We'll talk to you again next week. Visit OzoneNightmare.com to subscribe to new episodes, browse through our back catalog, or to find links to support the show. Follow @OzoneNightmare on Twitter for the latest episode postings and other show information. If 280 characters just isn't enough, you can always email us, theozonenightmare@gmail.com. The opening theme for the show is provided by Heartbeat Hero. The closing theme is provided by Ogre. Please visit and support these artists using the links in the show notes for each episode.